Hey guys, my name's Ravi. I'm sitting here with co-founder of the WFA, Tom Dyer. Tom, you've pulled me aside today because you have something very important we want to talk about.
Indeed, yeah. It is the new WFA Scoring System.
Da, 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 da.
Exactly. It has created some waves in the last couple of months.
Absolutely. I've seen both sides of those waves, some good, some bad, so we're here to iron everything out now, right?
Exactly, yeah. I want to try and take this opportunity to explain to people around the world what's going on. So, go ahead. Do you want to start?
Yeah, so let's start off with an important one, is why? Why did you make the changes to some of the rules?
So we've discussed it for a while through a lot of different people that are involved in Flair bartending about what's happening in Flair and about the routines which are happening on stage. And I suppose the biggest aspect is that we're losing our roots as bartenders. And if we lose our roots as Flair bartenders or bartenders that Flair, then we become jugglers, and then we don't have anything special about us. We're just throwing around glass bottles and shakers on stage to music. So it's important that we learn to be bartenders first, and we learn to Flair second. And this is something I learned very, very early on in my career when I started to lose my roots as a bartender, and somebody pulled me aside, gave me a bit of a slap around the face, and said, learn to make a cocktail, learn to be a bartender, and then learn to Flair second. And this guy was Amit Sood, actually. He said this to me, amongst a few other people. I think Jody Myers even said this to me. And I thank them for it, because now I pride myself in my bartending skill as much as my Flair. But anyway, on the second part of it is the fact that we see the new style of Flair coming out, which is what we're calling craft Flair. And this is a type of work in Flair, I suppose, but without the big moves that we see on stage. It's more to do with the spoons and the shakers and the muddlers and the icing up and the scoops and all the other types.
Almost a little bit like how you see, I hesitate to use the word mixologist.
Yeah. I suppose the word we tiptoe around that word mixologist, but let's say bartenders who are very good at making drinks and focus a hell of a lot on that. We can look at some of those people. Luca Corradini in City Space recently had little touches on his bartending skill. Marion Beck has a very distinct style in his bartending. Luca Cinali as well, has a very distinct style. And all three of these guys have been Flair bartenders. Craft Flair specialist, I suppose, is a guy called Dennis Zoppi. And all of these guys have Flair bartending backgrounds. And this is where we're seeing Flair change in Bacardi Legacy. Part of the new judging system or scoring system, as they say, make it fun. And it's important that being a bartender, you're supposed to be fun, and you're supposed to create some kind of entertainment for your guests when they come to the bar. You're not just a vending machine. You're selling alcohol. You're selling drugs to people over the bar. That's what you're doing. So we have to remember, it does come back to bartending, and we want to try and fit in with the rest of the bartending world. Flair bartending is becoming more accepted, and we're 10 steps ahead of everybody else. So why not? Let's try and fit in with everybody else so that we can be more accepted as bartenders and not just jugglers. And then finally, we go back to the competitions which have been performed over the last 2 or 3 years, and we look at the routines that bartenders are performing, and these routines are becoming very much split, snatch, catch, which is 3 or 4 tins in the air, bottle over the shoulder, snatch one and catch one, and exactly. And it's great if you know Flair and you can see the differences from one person to another, but essentially all the moves are the same, just performed in a different way. And there's a funny test we used to do years ago, or talk about doing, which is the shadow test, which is if you get a white screen, you put the bartender behind it, you shine a light behind that bartender, and then he flares or she flares. Would you be able to tell who that bartender was from the shadow of their Flair?
Excluding crazy hair or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this day and age, there's a lot of people who would look very, very similar behind that screen. And the idea is to try and differentiate yourself, come up with something new, so that when you flare as a shadow, people know exactly who you are.
Okay. So that leads us into what are some of these changes?
So some of the changes we've made is, well, first of all, let's just backtrack for 1 second, is we want you guys as bartenders to look at this scoring system as a brand new scoring system. Although some of the words are very similar to the old scoring system, the idea is that we didn't want to drastically change it too much, although some people feel that that's happened. We still want you to understand what's going on. That's why we're here doing this. So we're going to go through and talk about the two main aspects. There's the flair side of it, and there's the show and the skill. All right, and in both categories, there's three different things. So in the flair, you have diversity, inventiveness, and complexity. So diversity is how can I explain this in the best way? Is we want to see how different your moves are, or your flair is, not your moves, your flair is throughout your whole performance. So do you perform bumps, taps, rolls, snatches, nests, reverse nests, lampshades, different grabs, multiple catches, flash moves?
Yep.
We want to see a diverse type of flair. Do you go fast? Do you go slow? Do you perform different types of flair? Maybe a bit of juggling, maybe a bit of different types of juggling perhaps, or non-juggling. You know, we want to see it be different, not the same movements or types of moves throughout the whole thing. So whether you perform just flash moves where everything goes up and you catch everything, or just snatch moves, or just stalls all the way out, which we don't very rarely see, but show us different types of flair. Show us how you can present your flair in a different way. Do you use different types of music? Do you change up your flair from the beginning until the end? This is what diversity is all about, changing it up so that you're not just giving us the same stuff from the beginning until the end.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So the next one down is inventiveness.
Yeah, so inventiveness and diversity, they sometimes link in. And it's very difficult to create a scoring system like this where sometimes the categories don't link. But we try and differentiate or make them different from one another, let's say, as much as possible. And inventiveness is about how all those new things, all those different things you're doing, how much of it is new? How much of it is have you created yourself? Not just about the moves that you're inventing, but the sequences as well. Or are you inventing new ways to flair? Are you inventing new moves? Are you inventing new types of music to use? Are you inventing something which is different from whatever anyone else is doing? So have you invented a new bump? Have you invented a new catch? Have you invented a new roll? All right. Lots of people have said to me in the past, all the bumps have been performed, or all the rolls, or all the whatever have been done already. And then somebody comes up like jumbles his move, like that one. You got it? Which is a different type of roll. And that's adding to his diversity slightly, but it's also adding to his inventiveness. And then we also want to see in your inventiveness section is, like I say, the sequences which you are performing. You know, do you change it up and go slow for a little bit and invent some new types of ways to represent that? Or do you come up with a new way to perform the same type of flair but in a fast way? It's hard for me to explain exactly inventiveness, but just think about it like this. If you come up with something in flair which you think is wrong, it's not. As long as you're not spilling the bottle or the liquid from the bottle, as long as you're not dropping it, that's what's called inventiveness, because you're creating something which hasn't been created yet.
I've just thought of an example in my head. So for example, if someone put the cocktail shaker on the end of their elbow, maybe that'd be quite inventive.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. And you know what? These types of moves, they generally come out by accident. And that was purely by accident from leaning on the cocktail shaker with it in there like that, and then I kind of went, oh, that's quite fun. And it didn't click at first, but then you think, well, actually a second, I could create something from that. And that is something which, okay, no one's done that before, yeah. And so, is it wrong? Should I be able to do that? No, it's inventiveness. It's something different to perform.
There can't be a wrong
No,
There's no wrong answer in.
There is in Flair. There is no wrong answer. Another good example is, well, there's two more. Slava Gozukin, and all of the crazy stuff that he comes up with.
That guy's brain is outside the box.
Yes, I think the box is here, and he's gone way over there somewhere. But it's awesome. Everyone is always excited to see him because he's going to bring something new. It's not going to be the same stuff. And then you've got somebody new who's coming up, I suppose, in the world is Flavius. He's got some cool, funky moves with the round close to his body, and
he started doing this thing with the bar spoon and the glass. He drags it over and does something.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not super difficult. It's inventive because he's showing you something different that you can do with the tools and the stuff that you have on your bar. So try and think outside the box and not do what everyone else is doing, and you'll go far in inventiveness.
So the third category in this Flair section was complexity. That one seems to be a big question mark for most people.
Yeah. Complexity is a tough one. It can be similar to difficulty, but whereas something can be difficult but not that complex. But then again, you can get moves which are difficult and very complex, or you can get moves which maybe are not so difficult but can also be quite complex. So I'll try and give you some examples.
Please.
All right. Let's go back to the split snatch catch.
Yep.
All right. This can be very difficult moves that you see people perform, but they won't necessarily be very complex. So we'll take a very standard, fairly difficult move with 3 tins in a bottle, whereas you throw 3 tins up, you grab one, snatch one, you throw the bottle up, catch the third tin, catch the bottle in the tin. All right.
I can see that happening right
You got it right.
Yeah, I got it.
Split, snatch, catch. All right. And you can perform different types of this move in different ways with more shakers, and generally you see it with 2, 3, 4, and 5, maybe 6, maybe even 7 bottle tin.
7 bottled?
7 tin bottle. Yeah. Well, 7 bottle tin would be good. So these moves are not always very complex. Some of them can be, but they can be very difficult.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, a move which is very complex and is very difficult, which is a good example, is a move which Alexander Stifanov performs. 3 bottles and 1 tin, where something starts something like this.
There's like a tap and a roll.
There's a roll in there. Yeah. There's a something else. There's
a backflip. I think there's a backflip.
There's a backflip somewhere. Yeah. But see, we can't explain that move as well as the 3 tin bottle move, which I'm sure everybody just understood. But you explained to us the Alexander Stifanov 3 bottle tin move, and because it's so complex, you won't be able to do so. All right, so
good complexity.
Good complexity.
This is good complexity.
But then you also have another move which I suppose is more easy to understand, which is still complex, is a new move from Luca Valentin, where I can't remember exactly how he gets into it, but he has the shaker in a sort of tennis grip with the open end here, right, and the bottle goes over the shoulder, and he kind of grabs it, kind of like upside down like this.
His wrists are like fully...
Yeah, you've got to really have the right wrists or the right body size to do this.
Yeah.
So it's quite a complex move,
yeah,
but it's only he does it with 2 tins in a bottle, but essentially he could probably do it with just bottle tin.
Yeah.
So you can be very complex with bottle tin, and you can be very complex with multiple objects. And we want people to not think that we don't want to see big moves on stage. We want to see big moves, all right? It's important. It's crowd pleasers. 3 bottle tin move from Stifanov is a great move. But we want to see the smart moves, the inventive moves, the diverse moves, the funky rolls that we see from people, or the stall from Luca, or the double pour behind the back from Sergei Bulatin. Or
so I have a question. There's a move that just popped into my head. Was Denny Bakiev's an elbow stall,
yeah,
and then he throws some stuff and he gets the shaker smack in there.
Okay, so with that move, because there's no difficulty in the scoring system anymore, these are the kind of moves which we don't not want to see on stage, but there should always be an element of leave the people wanting more.
Yeah.
All right. So whereas in the old scoring system, Denny would probably be practicing to do the 3 tin bottle variations where it goes boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
He doesn't necessarily need to do that on stage anymore. And that's kind of a good thing, because you want to leave some moves for yourself, for the online viral videos, for the people who really are getting involved in flair bartending. Look at skateboarding, for example. You see some big moves in skateboarding, but you probably don't see all the best ones in competitions. The same in BMX. Okay, BMX, you probably do see some really shit hot moves, but you may not always see the best ones, okay? So it's the same kind of thing in flair. We want to see you do some of your best moves, but keep some to yourself as well. You know, it's difficulty is not in there anymore. So that move for Denny, for example, he doesn't need to do it. If he did it on stage and he landed it, he would score points in a few different categories. But because there's no difficulty, it wouldn't push him up that high in difficulty. He'd get some in complexity, but not that much.
I think a lot of flair bartenders, a lot of competitors, they kind of forget that there's more to flair than just competitions.
Yeah, it's very true.
It's not just competition.
Exactly, and it goes back to that bartending. You know, it is from bartending, and there's a lot of people now who are competing who can't make a drink. You know, you ask some people to make a Long Island iced tea, which should be one of the first cocktails you learn, and they struggle on stage. You know, and it shows in their bartending skill on stage when they go to make a drink. So there.
Okay, so we've talked about the flair side. There was the other side you mentioned earlier, was the show and skill. Mm-hmm. Let's have a little talk about that.
So show and skill is broken down into 3 categories as well: links and craft, choreography, and crowd interaction. Now, links and craft is something which a lot of people over the last couple of 2 or 3 competitions have been focusing on to put into their routine, which is great, which is fantastic, and it's good to see people are finally reading the scoring system. Well done to you. Remember, it is only 1 category out of the 6 which you're getting marked on in your flair. So although it's important, I don't want to say it's not the most important, so don't stop doing it, but make sure that you do look at the other categories as well. Now, what links and craft is, it's about, let's talk about the links quickly. It's about how well put together your routine is, how well you start from the beginning until the end. Do you readjust things by tapping them on your legs? Do you put stuff down and pick it up without any reason? Do you throw 4 tins in a bottle around and then throw 4 tins to your bar back and pour onto into your glass or wherever? This is not good linking moves. We want to see you link everything in towards making a cocktail. We want to see you use as many different items towards making that drink as you possibly can. Let's make an example. If you're behind your bar and somebody asks for a rum and coke, you're not going to pick up a bottle of vodka and a bottle of rum, because you're going to throw that bottle of vodka around and go, oh, I don't need that anymore, and then pour your bottle of rum. You know,
yeah.
There's no need for it. And I'm not saying that you have to use every single item that you touch on stage, but you should be flaring every single item that you touch on stage. It's annoying when I see people and they start their routine and the MC says 3, 2, 1, go. Napkins. Ice in the glass, boom. For me, that's
then they start their routine.
And then they start the routine. You've just missed out on 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 different types, or 6 different, even 7 different opportunities to flair. The 2 napkins, the 2 glasses,
the ice scoop,
the 2 ice into the glasses, the ice scoop itself. I mean, you could use a tin to ice up the glasses. You could use 2 tins to ice up the glass. I mean, the possibilities are endless just to put ice in your glass. And that comes into your craft as well. That's why we put them together, because your craft flair, you look at those bartenders we spoke about, the Luca Corradini and the mixologists, excuse me, I don't want to label you like that, but let's say the bartenders who are focusing a lot on their bartending style and their skill, they're utilizing small touches, small moves into their bartending to make it look better. And we want to see you guys on stage utilizing the tools and equipment that you've got to make your bartending skill look better. Instead of just pour into the shaker, ice up, shake, put the small shaker into the glass and strain out without any kind of style and panache. You know, we want to see you shake properly. We want to see you do nice pours. We want to see you strain in the correct way. We want to see you use the tools on stage as if you've used them a million times before. As a professional, exactly, as a professional bartender would. And these bartenders we've seen doing the craft flair, they're good at it because they work behind a bar and they do it every single day. Yeah. All right, picking up a bar spoon and throwing it behind your head and then stirring with it is just performing the same move which you know that you can do with that spoon. That's not necessarily going to score you that many points in craft and links. But if you use a spoon in a specific way, which is only useful, or you can only do with that spoon.
Like if you throw it behind your head, you can do that move with a shaker.
Exactly, or a bottle, or a muddler, or anything. Yeah. But if you pick up that spoon with the disc end and you put it on your wrist and put a glass on top, we all know who did that.
Yeah, that's something you can only do with that.
Precisely, you know. So use the equipment in such a way which is only specific to that type of equipment, you know. The other one which people have used a little bit is not recently, but I've seen in the past, is the Mexican elbow, like a set of nunchucks.
Like a nunchucks?
Yeah. Awesome. I mean, there's millions of things you can do with all the equipment you've got behind the bar, and these long spoons and short spoons and strainers and scoops and spinning on. I mean, the possibilities are endless, you know, and these will create the details to your routine, which will make it look so much better. Let's just talk about the napkin just very quickly. I know I blab along for quite a lot, but the napkin, the amount of moves you can do with the napkin spin varieties you can do.
Napkin spin varieties.
You know, there's Roberto Cucurullo did one where he kind of wafted it underneath the napkin and it kind of floated up. Or, you know, there's Luca does one here and it's double over, and
I don't know how he bends his arm like that. Like, for starters, he can stall a bottle like this, and now he's doing a napkin toss. Jesus.
Bang, you know. But how? That's the thing. That's what I like to see. That's what we'd love to see from you guys, is utilizing all these different tools in a way which is specific to those tools and that piece of equipment, which you cannot do with other things, which go towards making a drink and making you look like a professional flair bartender that can make a drink on stage with style.
Please, bartender, make drinks. Next down on your list was
choreography. Yeah, this one I like. I like this section. It's one which we feel like it should have been there a long time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, they had music interaction before, which is linked in. You had balance before, and this is all links in with that, like in a way. You know, years ago. Many years ago, when I began to flair, there wasn't many people choreographing routines. People would just go up on stage, normally a little bit pissed probably, and give it a go, and the winner would get a bottle of gin. You know, but now, you know, it's become a sport.
It's become a sport.
It is become a sport, and you know, there's money prizes up for grabs, and we've got to choreograph a routine to music. We've got to entertain the crowd. We've got to show the sponsors that we can do all of that and do it well. So choreography. So you've got 5 minutes on stage or whatever it may be. That is your time in wherever you are to impress the people in that building. That is your time where everyone's going to watch you, and you say, right, this is what I got. So we want to see you flair to the music. We want to see a well-balanced, thought-out routine which goes up and down, has peaks and troughs. Imagine a roller coaster with loop-de-loops and the build-up and the woos and everything else. This is how your routine should be feeling, should be looking. You know, you take the audience on a journey through your routine. So at some point they're going crazy, and then you diet down for a minute, so they're like, oh, okay, cool, what's he got next? You know, what's coming next? And this is about how well choreographed your routine is. You know? And then finally, your choreography links in with the final one, which is crowd interaction.
Okay.
And this is an old school scoring.
This is an important one, I feel.
Yeah, big time, big time. It's it used to be in scoring systems years ago, and I mean, just to quickly backtrack, you know, this scoring system has been thought out by a few people involved in Flair who have seen all the categories you can think of in a scoring system, you know, and we thought we'd bring this one back because it actually encourages the bartenders to think about the crowd that's in front of them. You know,
I guess at the end of the day, you're on stage to perform a show.
Yeah.
So if you're not performing for an audience, what are you doing on stage?
Yeah, exactly. You know, actually, I spoke to Andy on the phone earlier, and he was talking about just this. It kind of links in with this. He said if we're on stage and we're doing Flair moves, but we don't make a drink at the end of it, we may as well just be throwing around bananas. You know, we may as well just be throwing around staplers or whatever it may be, because there's no end product, you know.
There's no reason for it.
There's no reason for it. So anyway, I suppose if you threw around banana and a stapler on the stage, your crowd interaction might be quite entertaining. But
I can see that.
Yeah, but this is it. The crowd is important. Without them, sponsors wouldn't want to put money towards it. They wouldn't. If people didn't want to come and watch these routines or performances online, then there would be no reason to do what we do unless you really, really enjoy it. You just don't want to stop, I guess. But
you never want to show anyone.
Yeah, you don't want to show anyone. So your crowd interaction should be breaking down that barrier of you on stage and the people watching. Bartenders have stood back on stage. They concentrate on this big move, blah, 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 and you know, maybe they've dropped it, or they've lost the fact that the people are there to come and see them perform, you know.
Right.
And we're supposed to be entertaining people. Flair bartenders are supposed to be the ones who entertain the guests. Flair bartender or not, you should be entertaining your guests, and that's what crowd interaction is about. And so, I mean, Bruno did something quite fun, and some people will say, oh well, that's easy points. In Metro Flair, he gave his drink to someone in the crowd and said, here, model my drink, you know. And you're like, you may think, that's easy, that's an obvious thing, but for that guy who just turned up, yeah, and Bruno Van Zandt has asked him to muddle his drink, he's had the best night of his life, you know? And the people crowd, they're cheering. I
can't imagine how many times behind the bar you have banter with your guests and then you make them shake the cocktail for them.
There you go. Yeah.
We've all done it.
Exactly, you know. Why don't you get people to do that, you know? Let's incorporate. It's not just about you on stage. I'm sorry. Okay, you are obviously important when everyone's watching you, but it's not just about you. It's about what you can showcase and what you can bring to the table.
Your show.
Exactly. So there, yeah, that's a long-winded explanation, I guess, of the WFA new scoring system. We're not going to go into the deductions. I don't think that's necessary, but I hope that shed some light on the situation. Okay. I know you've probably got a few more questions.
Yeah, I do. You keep saying the word bartender, and the word bartender has come up a lot in this little chat so far. So the fundamentals of being a bartender is being able to make good drinks. Uh-huh. How is that going to tie into the new scoring system now?
Well, I mean, it's been involved into into the old scoring system where on stage you have to make good cocktails.
Yeah.
And it's still going to be a part of this scoring system. It's actually now it's actually I think about 22% of the final score.
Oh wow!
So it can actually make the difference between first and third quite a lot.
Yeah.
You know, the flair and the performance is obviously a huge part, but we want to see people making good drinks and progressing onwards. We're thinking about making it more specific on each competition, if possible. And this was an idea from Tom McMarrick, actually, is making the cocktails. So
thanks, Tom.
Yeah, good job. So things like digestive cocktails or aperitifs or long drinks or short drinks, so that people are coming up with similar cocktails, which make it easier for the cocktail judges to judge the drinks. So that's something we're starting to think about, and we're starting to talk more with people that do judge classic cocktail competitions or cocktail competitions to get their views on, you know, the rights and wrongs on judging the cocktails. At the moment we have in the category appearance, aroma, taste and originality, creativity, which we think is quite a generalized scoring system, and we're going to keep looking at it and see how we can potentially improve that and make it easier for those judges to judge the cocktails in the best way possible.
It sounds a little bit IBA inspired. Is that?
Yeah, no, that's fair to say. I think many years ago when I started competing, and the people I was with, we were very much like, we just want to throw bottles around, and we just want to show the flair moves.
Vodka cranberry.
Yeah, exactly. And those were the days, man.
Those were the days.
But I mean, I lost my roots as a bartender. I started thinking too much about the flair and not thinking about the drink that's being created at the end of it. And over time, we've slowly started to see the error of our ways and thought, well, IBA have certain things right in that respect. Where it's good to make a good cocktail, but we also want to see some badass flair as well.
We want to see some badass flair.
Performed in the right way.
And the roll and the tap and the...
Exactly. So all of that stuff.
All of that stuff.
Yeah.
All of this stuff.
All that stuff right there.
Okay, so we've talked about the scoring system, we've talked about the why, which is a pretty important one. I kind of want to ask you about the aim. Like, what do you hope to achieve by making this massive change in the WFA?
I suppose the idea is to make it more fair for everybody that's involved in flair. It rhymes.
Fair in flair?
Fair in flair. And
ta-da!
that means, there is no difficulty now in the scoring system. So you don't have to learn how to throw all these different objects around and come up with the biggest, baddest move that's more difficult than everybody else.
Yes!
to win a competition. Let me just repeat. There's no difficulty in the new scoring system. All right?
Yes!
So this opens the doors up to a lot more people to score well in this scoring system. Think about the ladies and the females that flair, for example.
I was having a chat with Natty very recently about this.
That's right, yeah.
And she was very excited because the way the new scoring system is it opens the doors for absolutely everyone now. It's not those top 5 guys who are dominating the world of flair at the moment. They're not, if they come to your competition, it's not like, okay, may as well go home, they're going to win it now.
You can catch up with them, yeah. They're obviously at a level at the moment which is extremely professional. Not saying extremely professional, but they're doing very well with their routines.
Yeah.
And some of them, this scoring system fits well with their flair, but others, very easy to overtake them if they don't change their style of routine. Even the ones who are winning, the people who are still trying to catch up have a much easier way to catch up with them now. So we wanted to try and open the doors up a little bit more to everyone else who's involved in flair and make it more fair for everybody to try and score better.
I don't envy the judges now. It sounds like they've got a much harder job.
It is tough, and do you know what? I've sat on a few judging panels since the new scoring system has started, and although we've done tests and we've spoken about it and we've gone over and over it, excuse me, some judges are still struggling to change to this new style of scoring,
yeah.
Which is understandable when you've been judging a system in such a way for such a number of years, to try and look at flair in a different way and encourage the bartenders to look at it in that different way and try and encourage everyone to see it slightly differently. Is obviously a tough thing to do, but it will take maybe 6 months or maybe a little bit longer, a bit shorter, for it to really kick in and for people to really understand it. But the main goal, I suppose, is to again bring us back to the bartending world. It's for years and years, mixologists and flairers have had this feud. You're just people that want to be flair bartenders. You're just people that can't make drinks and throw bottles around. All right. Now it's starting to come together. Flair bartenders, mixologists, everyone's starting to mold as one.
It's such a good thing. I've got to be honest. My personal opinions on these matters. I hate the word flair tender, and I hate the word mixologist. Mm-hmm. We're bartenders. It should all be under one umbrella. It's just the way I've always learned is, you need to be able to make good drinks, mm-hmm. but if you can't entertain your guests, what's the point?
Exactly.
And at the same time, you can entertain your guests, but if you can't even put together a nice drink, what's the point?
Exactly. Yeah. It's so true. I mean, I've been using the word flair bartender, and it's like a guy in South Africa, Peter Oosthuizen, said it very well. You can be a doctor or a general practitioner, which kind of specializes in all aspects of doctoring.
Doctoring.
But then you can specialize in certain specific aspects of being a doctor.
Yeah.
An optician, or give me some other ones which are not rude.
Which are not rude.
But you know where I'm going.
Pediatrician.
A pediatrician. There you go.
Yes. Contributed.
There's you can focus. There's still a
Chiropractor.
Chiropractor. You got it. You got it.
On a roll.
Gynecologist. Yeah. Whoopsie. I told you. So, but there's all of these. They're all doctors, okay? But they specialize in a certain type of doctrine, a certain type of medical part of the medical world. Do you see what I'm getting?
The medical world is quite big.
Exactly.
What point did bartender being a bartender?
My point is this: everyone's a bartender,
right?
But you can specialize in mixology. You can specialize in flair bartending. You can specialize in molecular mixology. In molecular mixology, you can specialize in cocktail historian. You can specialize in different types of bartending skill, but you're still a bartender at the end of the day, and that's what we need to remember.
When you're at the airport and you fill in those cards,
you got it.
Under occupation, who writes flair bartender? Mixology. You write bartender.
If you write in flair bartender, stop it. All right, stop it. Bartender. I still write bartender.
Yeah.
What do you do? I'm a bartender. You know, it's like once a bartender, always a bartender, and that's what that's where that whole analogy, I suppose, was going. Is that we're always a bartender, but you can specialize in different aspects and different types of bartending, but you should still be competent in all of them in some way, shape or form. Yep. So that's where we're going with it. That's what we want to try and achieve. We want flair to be more accepted in the bartending world, because it is accepted by a lot of people, but it still has some people, there's
a lot of negativity
there still is a lot of negativity. And I mean, to those people who are negative towards it, there's flair bartenders who don't do it well. There's mixologists who don't do it well. There's bartenders who don't do it well. All right, it's just there's always going to be those people who don't do it that well, and we need to accept that as a bartending community and realize that no one's perfect in every aspect of what they're doing.
Try not to judge a book on its first impression.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like that was the mix between try not to judge someone on their first impression and try not to judge a book by its cover. Like,
yeah,
I messed it up.
You did. Yeah.
Cool.
But that's okay.
Thanks. Okay. Well, then my final question I do want to ask you is, what do you see in the future of flair? Like, we're talking. Like 5 years down the line, how do you see flair evolving? If you see flair evolving?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, it's something I haven't really thought about a lot, but at the same time, I have, and I see it becoming a lot more professionalized, if that's a word to use. A lot more professional in terms of the competitions will become more professional, the routines will become more professional and accepted, and the public will see it in a much different way. I think it will be a lot more involved in bartending, and we'll see a lot more different styles of competitions coming out. WFA have just launched the WFA World Series, which is a legend style competition with free pour, speed round, craft bartender flair and product experience. And I think this is where we're going, and I'll talk about the World Series, because we do see that as the future a little bit of flair bartending, or flair, however you want to call it. But it's all still linked into the bartending world. And this World Series, you have 4 rounds: free pour, speed, bartender craft or craft flair, and product experience. Now, the free pour and the speed are quite self-explanatory, but they link in together. So you have a selection of pours from the free pour round, which once you've measured all your pours out, no matter however many milliliters or ounces you are out, will turn into seconds, which will then be put onto a clock onto your speed round. So if I'm 10 seconds out, let's say, I'll have 10 seconds on my clock, and your overall 15 seconds out, you'll have 15 seconds on your clock. And then the MC will say 3, 2, 1, go. We start our speed round. And then 5 seconds later, because you're 15 seconds, you'll start your speed round.
Right.
And then we'll go da 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 da, and then we finish whenever we finish. we get checked for any deductions, which turn into seconds, and then you get a final time as well, which will then go directly onto the leaderboard, onto the score sheet. Then the top 12 from that section will then go through to the bartender craft, which is set behind a real bar with limited space behind the bar, limited time on how much you can flare and how many objects you can flare, and you have to make a good cocktail. You know, you're going to be judged on the cocktail, and we want to see bartender craft flair. You know, small moves, little swipes, pours behind the back, some rolls.
So, like when you're in a bar,
your work exactly working behind the bar, making a cocktail and doing it well. And then finally, the product experience round is one which is all about the experience you deliver when you're making a drink. All right, so those formulas you've seen, or that formula you've seen circling around the internet, which says I plus M times F equals PE, is ingredients plus method times flair equals product experience. Right. And a product experience is some examples. Okay, talked about Nicholas with the spoon.
Yep.
This is a product experience. The Blue Blazer cocktail, which Jerry the Thomas did over 150 years ago.
It's like the first bit of flair scene.
Exactly, you know, and we want to bring it back to the roots of where we started. You know, delivering that cocktail as he did, performing a show, creating flair. He's delivering a product experience for that specific drink.
Yeah.
And brands want to, they want that. That helps, or sponsors or brands, they want that kind of product experience. Look at the Jaeger bomb. All right, that is a simple product experience which helps sell lots of Jaeger.
Yeah.
All right, and that can be, brought over onto other cocktails and other types of drinks as well. But it was Jägermeister who brought it out and come up with this drink. So we want to see bartenders come up with a different way to present their drink, serve their drink, pour their drink, flair their drink in some way, shape or form, and deliver it to the guests and to the customer in a unique way, which will make that customer feel like, I want another one of those drinks because of what he just did then.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we see it going, where the bartenders are going to be the new journalists. They're going to be the new celebrity chefs. They're going to be the new people that people look towards to see what the latest trends are going to be. And
the way you talk about that sounds really cool. In my head, I kind of imagine it going a little bit more, I want to say TV-wise? TV sort of?
Yeah,
direction?
perhaps. I think it could do.
You've got all these programs about chefing now, but I don't know many programs on TV about bartending.
No.
And if you think about the world we live in today, how many bartenders, the people who stood behind a bar, worked in a bar? It's quite a big industry.
Yeah, it's huge.
You can't ignore us forever. You can't ignore us forever. It's only a matter of time someone comes out with like a good concept show.
It will do, yeah,
and,
it will.
Yeah.
I think it will. I mean, I've always said years ago that I never wanted it to go mainstream, flair bartending. And I don't think flair will ever go super deluxe mainstream, maybe as much as cooking, because there's alcohol involved and they've got to get around that boundary.
Yeah.
I quite like the novelty that we're involved in here. What do you do? Oh, we throw bottles around for a living. I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. But at the same time, it's still going to be good to get that exposure and be involved in the bartending world, which will get that exposure. And there'll be bartenders which specialise in flair, which will go on TV, and bartenders which specialise in mixology, which will go on TV. But I don't think it'll focus just on one type of bartending technique.
I know there was a competition which did go live on TV. I think it was ESPN2 for Flairmania and Riga. Was it a year ago or 2 years back?
Well, I think it's 2 years back.
2 years back, and they streamed it live on TV, and I imagine that could have gone either way. That could have been really great for the sport. Got so many more people gone flair bartending. What's this? Huh? Or it could have been like, I suppose it comes back to when you say about professional routines. If you put on TV a guy who does 10 drops in one routine, then it's not very professional. It's not you're not going to want to watch again. Mm-hmm. But you put someone who has almost no drops and who just entertains and puts on such an amazing show.
You want to see it.
You want to see again. You want to see more.
Yeah. I mean, one thing we forget though is that when we watch flair, when you guys watch flair bartending or flair routines, you can understand what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, you ask Joe Bloggs up the street who's never seen it before, and you throw a bottle over your shoulder to a couple of bumps in a stall, he has no idea what you just did, you know,
Yeah.
because their reactions are not as quick to pick it up. So that links in back to the scoring system as well, you know,
Okay,
being able to let people understand what you're doing and make them realize that you are a bartender, you are making a drink, and this is all part of what the direction that we need to go, basically.
Awesome. Okay, Tom, thank you very much for sitting down with us today and having this very long conversation.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot. We've covered a hell of a lot today.
We have, and I hope it's helped. I hope it's helped you guys understand the new scoring system, and thank you very much for listening to us blabber on for such a long time.
That being said, if anyone wants to leave any comments, if they have any questions about anything we've covered today, please feel free to leave them in the comment boxes below. Alternatively, you can go direct to the WFA website.
Correct.
Pretty much everything is written up there for you. And that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
I've been Ravi. This is
Tom. But thank you very much once again, guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Happy days.
Yeah, I can't do that.